coaches, as therapists, as educators, we have the opportunity to start to change some of the shame, some of the stigma, and so much undue suffering, because so many of these STIs are really not a big deal physiologically, and the real harm happens with the shame and kind of like the insidious effect that can have in people's lives. So yeah, I love talking all things STIs and kind of starting to undo that shame. And we as educators have the power to do that. It's not something that I was really thinking I was going to specialize in when I became a psychologist, but through the process of kind of learning about my own sexuality through becoming a sexologist and opening up my marriage and uncovering kind of my own sexual orientation through the process, I contracted an STI. And as a expert that I thought I was, very educated on the topic, I thought, I can handle this, no problem. But I had a really intense kind of emotional reaction when all the doctors I was trying to work with really didn't have the skill set and tools to kind of help me navigate the more emotional and psychological aspects of what happens when we actually contract an STI, because over half of us are going to at some point. So what
Right.
do we do when that happens? So I now really, really love giving talks about STIs and STDs and kind of the emotional, psychological aspects to these illnesses, to these struggles that people face. And so I really, really love working with people who maybe are exploring non-monogamy or exploring their sexual orientation or their gender identity. And so they're kind of like tapping into these different parts of themselves, and which is such a beautiful thing. But then they kind of hit like a roadblock of, oh no, I either got sick, or there's fear around that, or, they only had fear-based ed in school. And so there's just so much unknown, or they maybe have a traumatizing experience at a doctor's office or with with a partner. And so I really like to kind of set the record straight with safer practices, what we actually know about STIs, how to best protect yourself. And overall, just I really like to make sure people feel empowered in their sexual choices, whatever they may be. And as coaches, as therapists, as educators, we have the opportunity to start to change some of the shame, some of the stigma, and so much undue suffering, because so many of these STIs are really not a big deal physiologically, and the real harm happens with the shame and kind of like the insidious effect that can have in people's lives. So yeah, I love talking all things STIs and kind of starting to undo that shame. And we as educators have the power to do that.
Yes, and this is such an important topic. And here at Sexual Health Alliance, we have a vast audience. So we have therapists, educators, counselors, coaches, medical professionals, and researchers, all different types of people who learn from us and come to our events. So I would like to talk to you a little bit. I get a lot of questions about what does a sex coach do? Can you tell me? So from your experience and in your business, what do you do as a sex coach?
I love my job so much. I've worn many hats. I've had a lot of different sort of like dipping my toes in a lot of different career paths, where maybe I was very skilled in a certain area. And so I took a job that seemed like it would fit, but something always was kind of a miss. And so I've coached in other areas and kind of been a counselor for people with chronic illness, for people with brain injuries. And that was all very rewarding work. But what I've found in my own life and working with people who are having kind of like health struggles, or, when I was working with kind of like a chronic illness group of people, or people with brain injuries, things like that, is that is so like we talk about like your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health, whatever. And then life is kind of like this other thing. It's like, well, if I get everything else in my life in a row, then I can address maybe the social issues. But I would love, my mission as a coach is to nix the phrase life from our vernacular. I don't think we have a life and then a life, like it is all combined. So I think that like whatever is going on with us is kind of a barometer for what's going on in the rest of our life. So what I love as a coach is getting to see people who maybe come to me with like a relational issue or sexual dysfunction or something that they don't have anyone else to turn to, and then seeing kind of the ripple effect that has in the rest of their lives, because it's so intertwined with them. So seeing someone like kind of blossom and open up and have all these transformations outside of the bedroom is really powerful. So my typical day looks like I do all my appointments virtually. So I get to be in my cozy cabin here in Alaska and meet with people just like this over Zoom. And what I really enjoy about coaching in particular is that it's very actionable. And so we kind of, the first couple appointments are kind of like, where are people coming from and what do they want to get out of coaching? It might not be a great like business move, but I always ask someone in the first appointment, when do you know, like, when are you going to fire me? When are you going to say, I don't need a coach anymore? Like, what is the kind of end goal you want? And then we work backwards, taking actionable steps and kind of giving like homework assignments and checking in. I'm really action oriented versus just kind of like talking around an issue. And that's what I love about coaching is that it is very tangible. And it's so rewarding. It's the first job I've ever had where at the end of a day, working with clients all day long, I feel more energized than when I started. So that's how I know I'm in the right, the right field.
Before you watch the rest of our video, did you know a lot of people haven't subscribed to our channel yet? So if you love this type of content, go ahead and click subscribe now before you watch the rest of the video. Yes. Oh, I love hearing that. And I love hearing about like a day in the life. That is so cool. Thank you for sharing that.
It is kind of a very full circle moment for me, just going, returning kind of to this place where I was in undergrad, living a very different existence from the person that I am now. And it was through exploring my own sexuality and healing a lot of kind of like sexual misinformation and trauma and shame and stigma and all this that I had grown up with, that I kind of carried with me to college where I was going down a much different career path. And sort of like my own healing I've done around sex and now getting to share that with others, that I'm returning to this place as like a very different version of myself, which feels really exciting. We'd often talk about like the symptoms or the treatment or like, you know, worst case scenarios or how to prevent STIs, but we don't talk about like what happens if we actually get them and how do we navigate making safer decisions, because the answer isn't just condoms. There's so much more to that, even though that's what we learned in school. So we shift the language that we use around STIs to start to undo some of that kind of nasty, insidious shame that is so unfortunately prevalent.
Thanks for watching our video with Danielle. She was amazing. Do us a favor, share this video with someone who might benefit from this information. Your support helps us reach more people with important sexual health information. If you're passionate about this space, we know you'll enjoy these videos, so check them out. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and remember, you are Successional.